All right. Well, we're glad you're here. Today we're talking about buyer consultations, which is a huge topic of discussion these days. Buyer consultations are super important to make sure that we get our buyer relationship started off on the right foot, that we're able to set really good expectations, we're able to win them as clients, get them to sign the contract, all the good things, and basically just add a lot of value to them. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but sometimes people just they think, oh, realtors don't add value. There's nothing that they do. They're just door openers, all that sort of thing. I like the TikTok that's going around. Um, Alexi posted one, but a lot of other people did too. Um, but anyways, that's about us being door openers. But the best way for us to combat that is to provide value. So in my opinion, there's some realtors that I don't think really do earn much of a commission, but so we get to choose, are we going to add value or are we just going to be, um, door openers, I guess. So okay, so buyer consultations are super important for that reason. How many of you have done buyer consultations already? I know Jake's done some. I mean, I know Norma's done some. Noah. I feel like, okay, so buyer consultations, super important. Um, if you haven't done one, we're going to go through it right now. So, what does that process look like? So it first thing that we should talk about, which Ryan King and I were talking about earlier today, was that process of how are we going to be what's the order we're going to go in? So what do you guys think? Do you think we should normally be meeting with our clients first or having them meet with the lender first? What are your thoughts? Ryan, you can even chime in. So everyone's included.
I was almost thinking on it, Nick, from our conversation that it could be a two-step process because I don't think, like, let's say you meet with them first before you send them over to my side, and they don't end up being qualified. I don't think in that case it's necessarily a waste of your time because you become more sticky and you develop a better relationship with that client. And then, of course, on my side, like I would be working through the strategies and ways to get them to the point where they can qualify. So it's not a lost lead. It's really just, a matter of time, not if. So I was almost thinking like you have one up front that kind of sets some really good expectations. It's kind of your time to shine as a realtor. It will also help get some systems in place to create a smoother transition to referral to me on my side. And then if they're pre-approved, you can almost just have a quick follow-up, whether it's a Zoom call or phone call or something like that, review everything on my side, get an accurate search set up, and kind of have a follow-up consultation to get them out on the market searching. That was kind of my thought process behind it. I feel like that is smoother. I think a lot of the time you guys as agents debate if it's worth your time before you know how much they can afford. I'm sure you have a lot to present on. That doesn't include the type of house they're going to buy, which you could cover in that first like initial buyer consultation.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, I love that. That is really where I agree pretty wholeheartedly on that. I think sometimes we think, okay, we send them to the lender first, see if they're approved, and then we'll meet with them. That's maybe more of a standard, like a traditional sort of way. Is like, hey, the first thing you need to do is talk to a mortgage lender. And I really think personally, it's just a personal opinion. There's no right or wrong, but I personally think you should meet with your people, have a buyer consultation. If nothing else, it's going to be great practice, but it really is going to be a time for you to set great expectations for them, to really let them know that you're a serious realtor and you know how to service them, you know how to get them what they want. You've done this a million times, you're very practiced at it. Like, I think that's the best way to build a relationship so they feel comfortable referring you. So even if you go to meet with them first and maybe then you send them to a lender and they don't get approved right now, no good lenders are going to tell them they're not approved. Not approved is not like a status. It's either that they're approved or they're not approved yet. Like there's going to be some action items. That could be big action items or little ones. It could be pay off a credit card or it could be get a new job. But either way, Like people, if it's a decent lender, they're going to give you a plan moving forward. So if you work with a great partner, they're going to either say, yes, you're approved and here's how much, or hey, you can be, you just have to do these things. If it's credit related, most of those credit issues can be solved within like 3, 6, 12 months max. Like it's not a huge undertaking. So, anyways, meet with your people. It's a great time for you to shine and really show off your real estate knowledge. You have any thoughts on that, Terry? Anything I didn't cover?
No, I mean, I think you said everything exactly as I would say it. Just, I do think it's important to meet with them first so we can build the relationship. And most importantly, I like doing the presentation because it shows my value and then I can get them to sign a contract all in the same time. Then when I refer them over to the lender, it basically is my resource that I'm giving to them. So it's just one more piece of value. So it's the biggest platform you have to begin showing your value as an agent is that presentation.
Totally.
Yeah,
And it
I'll
doesn't
I'll
hurt
add
if
one
you're
more.
doing it, and it doesn't hurt if you're doing it a year early. Like that's totally fine. Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was just going to say I'll add one more thing on top of that because you're almost buying your time back from for the future. Because if you get that aspect out of the way, a lot of that stuff you discuss is not going to change if they end up buying next year. So at that point, like I would call you up and say, "Hey, Joe and Mary are ready to buy. Here's their pre-approval. Have your follow-up consultation and go through their price range that they're now approved for. Now you don't have to worry about scheduling a time to meet them again. It really can just be jumping right into showing them homes. So again, you're saving yourself time in the future. So I don't ever think it's a waste of time. That's for sure. Especially if we're actually bought into being a resource for them for life.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I would make another point too, that the buyer presentation, it does not matter what type of buyer it is. I recently had somebody I helped buy a home and I sat down with my very first thing, because I do it with everybody, every single buyer I sit down with. And I just basically said, let's get together so I can show you how I can help you. And at the end of my appointment, she signed the contract. But more importantly, she's like, I have bought 10 houses. Not one person has ever explained the process to me. So right then and there, she was just blown out of the water. And you might think this person's purchased 10 homes, she doesn't need a buyer consultation, but they do. Every single market is different. So get into the habit of doing it with every single buyer. Family too.
And who knows,
Yep.
you might get referrals out of it before they even end up being a client for yourself, like a closed transaction. So
Yeah, for sure.
Totally. Yep, that's a big limiting belief that a lot of people have is that, oh, I already know them, they're already friends, they're close to me, they're family, so I'm not going to really do a formal consultation. That's a big red flag, a big mistake that you might make. If they don't know what to expect, then you're going to have a lot rougher transaction, and who knows, maybe they'll get stolen from you, maybe they'll go with a builder, or maybe and I feel like I shouldn't even say that because that plays into the whole, oh, they wouldn't do that because they're my friends or family. So do it because you should do it. But there's always that chance they could go somewhere else, and honestly you might want them to go somewhere else if you don't provide a ton of value. So come out giving them all a lot of value, teaching them. If they feel like they've learned something since they've met with you, they've gotten a little smarter since meeting with you, they're going to want to work with you and find value in working with you. So it's
yeah.
very
And guys, I've
important.
seen that. I've seen agents lose deals, end up with the builder, just going to a builder. And that could be something you cover in your buyer consult. So it doesn't happen. You're just preventing those types of issues from happening. Plus I do think it generally makes it easier, especially for newer agents, to transition to the lender because you're in person and you can just say, here's how the process flows. And then you're almost just assuming the sale. We've all heard that, but like, hey, okay, we've covered everything on our side, on the real estate side. We need to now check out how much you can approve for. I'm going to introduce you to my lender partner. I'm going to throw you in a group email or a group text, and they're going to talk about the numbers at no cost, no obligation.
Yep.
It just makes it seem so much smooth. It's not like some weird official transfer and they feel obligated, like they're committing to some timeline because they're talking to a lender. I just think it creates a smoother transition to us, which I know is something that I've just heard commonly, especially from new agents, that they don't want to feel like they're pressuring their client to talk to us, but I mean, the reality is they need to at some point, and the sooner the better.
Yeah. Love it. Yep. So true. So we got to get them over there. Yeah, we do need to get them over there so they can have a formal conversation about their money. We talked a little bit about whether we want to be in that appointment or not. Personally, I don't want to know all their finances and whatnot. Some people are slightly more hands-on, but I prefer just to know how much can they buy, how much do they want to buy, what are their, how much are they putting down, what kind of concessions do we need to be getting. That's mostly all I want to know. Because if I know about all their debts and all their dirty laundry and stuff, then I might be like, are you sure you want this house? Like, this is a lot of house, So I don't like to know too much about their finances. We leave that to the loan officer for the most part. But okay, so you're having conversation with people. Maybe they say, oh, hey, what's the market like? Or hey, what does it look like to buy in this market? Or is this a good time to be buying a home? Those are questions we're typically going to get asked. So how are we going to move those into a buyer consultation like this? Does anyone have an idea? Like, how are we going to actually set this buyer consultation appointment? Any scripts you guys have tried? All right, well, I'll throw one out. Hey, awesome. When can we talk more about that? Hey, I'm glad you're interested in looking to purchase a home. When would be the best time that we could talk more about that? Um, what's another example? How's the market going? Oh, I'd love to talk to you more about that. Are you looking at more at buying or selling? Like, what are you most interested in right now? So any of those things are going to move you to an appointment. You've got to get it to a formal appointment. That's the next step. As soon as you have a lead, as soon as someone says they have some motivation, you've got to move it to an appointment. So, and where do you think the appointment would be? Where do you think the best place for the appointment would be?
At the office?
Love that answer. Anyone else? Any other votes?
I mean, if
I
they
don't think
have,
there's anything wrong with it not being in the office, but that would definitely be my first choice.
Totally. What were you going to say?
if it's a buy and a sell, maybe at their house.
Yep. If it's a buy and a sell, it would be at their house. Totally. Yep. Totally agree. Yeah, I think we would all probably rate the office as probably the top option, unless they're selling their house. Then we're going to meet them at their home. So, but other than that, the office would probably be the top choice. Maybe a close second. A second would be anywhere neutral. So, or like a coffee shop. Another KW office would be great. So that we do have a lot of KW offices around. So if it's more convenient to go to one than another, just go there. If it's going to be after hours, make sure you make arrangements so you can get in. But even if it's during hours, I would make arrangements so they for sure have a room for you. But anyways, those would all be good options. And then coffee shop is a great option too, if that's more convenient. You just don't want to really do it at their home unless you have to, like if they're selling their house, because it's you want a kind of a neutral situation, preferably without their kids like crawling around and all that stuff. You want to be able to focus on it. So make sure it's a specific date and a specific time. So it's got to be like Wednesday at 8 p.m. Well, hopefully not that late. Wednesday, 5 p.m. At whatever place. Because a lot of times I hear, especially if it's a friend or a family member, it's like, oh, I'll swing by after work, or oh, maybe you can swing by after work, or I'll probably see you at bingo on Wednesday night anyways. Whatever. Like that's not a buyer consultation. Buyer consultation is, hey, I'll see you at this day. This time we're going to go through it. Now, it's not going to take a lot of time. We're talking maybe 15, 20 minutes. I did have one this week that was 90 minutes. That was brutal. So the goal would be, man, 20, 30 minutes, you can get through everything you need. As far as I'm concerned, unless you think anything different, Terry, but I'm like, you want to get in, you want to get out, make it happen.
I don't think any appointment should ever be longer than an hour. After an hour, I don't care who you are, you're glazing over. So we don't want to lose them. So any appointment, even seller appointments, my goal is in and out in less than an hour.
Totally.
Yep.
They don't want you in their house any longer than you need to be either. So it's very flattering to think that they want you at their house forever, but they do not. So, cool. Okay. So let's talk about what that conversation is going to sound like. So, first, what are we going to take with us to that buyer consultation? Who has an idea?
I have a
Like a-
question that might help with the answer.
Totally.
How many people here have their buyer presentation created and ready to go? And there is a hand raise in the reactions. Or if your camera's on, do you have a buyer presentation? The actual marketing piece. Is that a no from the rest of you? It's okay if it's a no. Jana, I know you do. Cody, awesome. Nua,
I tried.
awesome.
I
was
tried
just gonna say,
putting
I've
it
got
up.
my wife. So,
Hey, that's even better. Just bring your wife. Arun, did you say you do have one?
Yeah, I tried creating one. I do have one, but the thing is, when I try to download it, it goes up to 99% and then stops. It didn't let me download at all.
Interesting. Okay, well, we can help you with that for sure. Because we definitely, that is to answer Nick's question. That is one crucial piece, in my opinion, is that you have that marketing piece with you. That marketing piece gives you the kind of the confidence and the knowing of what to say as you get through that presentation. If you get off or they ask you questions you're not quite sure how to answer, you can always refer right back to the listing or buyer presentation to get you back on track with where you're at in the process, what's the next step, all of that. It's all outlined in that buyer presentation.
The last one we have is from July 7th, 2021. Is that the copy? Are you still using or?
So there are newer ones. Nick, I don't know if I can share my screen.
Yeah, you could. I have Home Hub pulled up. Actually, I was going to show you guys how to find it.
Yeah, I
If
think that'd be
you-
good. Because if you don't have this, this would be your first piece of homework from this class.
Yes. So, and before I lose it, Norma, you had an answer. Was it
Oh, yes.
buyer consultation or was it something else? I just didn't want you to forget it.
Oh, you're good. I'm modifying yours and trying to make it like more mine, because yours is really good, but I don't know that I that I do everything that you do.
Totally. I love it. Awesome. Yep. Yeah, this is something you can definitely rip off and duplicate. So I'm going to share this so you can see the Home Hub. So hopefully you guys know what the Home Hub is. If not, now's your big moment. kwhomehub.com. It's going to take you to this really nice looking website here. And you can actually go into Agent Hub. Yeah, go into Agent Hub. Oh, I might be opening a can of worms here. We're going to see how well I
I hope you've opened a new account.
Oh, I didn't. Did you?
Yes.
Okay, I am passing this over to you.
Okay. So very quickly on that. So we have a version 1 and version 2 literally rolled out this week. So that's why he hasn't signed up for that yet, but it's super easy. So all you have to do, you can continue to go to KW Home Agent, let's see, kwhomehub.com. And once you hit this, it will convert to the version 2. And all you have to do is just sign up for an account. You don't have to wait for approval or anything. So you just create an account. So now let's see if I remember my login and password that I created. So you can
Hopefully
see it takes you to kwhomehubagent.com is version 2. So you can go straight there, or either way, it's going to pass you along. So mine's already in there. Yay. So we are navigating. This is new. So give us a little patience as we figure out where everything is. So I believe what we're going to do is click on Design My Marketing Suite. And all the new updates are pretty cool. We're just used to the old one. So the ones that we're referring to as you get started in real estate is just the do-it-yourself. And they are beautiful. It's super easy. It's free. So I would definitely go with this one first. And then we do have the option of somebody creating it for you. We do have a marketing company behind our company called Agency, and they'll do a ton of things for you. For now, we just want you to focus on what you already get and what's here and set up for you. So you can choose different kind of versions. The content is basically the same, so you don't have to worry about it. It's just how do you want it to look? So I'm just going to click on this first one. You're going to click to edit buyer's guide. And Nick, I know you were going to do this, so if you want to jump in and.
No, this is great. Perfect.
My computer is slow, however. So this is just a Canva template that's been created for you, super easy. So you're just going to click use template for design. You can see here, you'll know when it needs to be edited or customized. So you're just going to come in here and click on the phone numbers, your website, your address, insert a little bio. Anything that looks like this just says, give me a photo. So this would be your headshot. This is the actual presentation in itself. So when I'm going through a presentation, this is my whole 30-minute presentation is this one page. So basically I'm going step by step through this on the home buying process. We can touch back on that in a minute. The rest of it really is everything in your presentation, just broken out a little bit more. So this is going through the steps, why they want to hire us. This is all done for you. You don't have to recreate anything. It's all pretty, nothing that you have to do, everything about Keller Williams, how we compare to other companies. Like there's really nothing you have to do on here. And I would also say, I've had people get stuck on a couple of the pages. If you don't like the page or you don't want to update it, just remove it. Like this one, I have a lot of people that get stuck on, I don't have any testimonials, so I don't know what to put in here. We can get you testimonials. It's super easy. You can always get your mom, your brother, your uncle, somebody to say something nice about you, or just when you download it, remove this page. Don't get stuck on it. Same with this. So you can see here, insert title company, insert mortgage company, homeowners insurance, anybody that you consider part of your team, you can add here. But if you get stuck on it, just remove it for now. It's okay if you don't have that filled out. Same here. This could be, you're going to create kind of a team. It's okay. And then these are just kind of fill in the forms, but everything you need for a buyer presentation is literally just right here for you. And then, like I said, this is just breaking down that one sheet that I've already, that I would use as my one-page presentation. So if you need to be able to review a little bit more of this, understand exactly what you're explaining, these are really good sheets to do that. But I don't go through that with my client. I do just kind of that step by step through them. Anything you want to add to that, Nick?
No, I just think, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in there, and yeah, just get rid of whatever you don't need. Because if you don't customize too much, I mean, you can get away with just putting in your picture and your contact info. So I want you to know it's super easy. If you don't use Canva, it's okay. It's not going to be too hard, but just click on use template for new design, and then you could just drag and drop. It should be pretty easy. If you need help, we'll help you. But I feel like if you go in there, you'll be able to figure it out. Don't sign up for a premium account or anything. You won't need it. Unless you use it a lot, you can, but you don't have to. It's a free service. Just go in there, update it the way you need, and then maybe print it out so you have it ready. We have tons of different ways to bind these things too. Like each of our offices has several options for binding things. So you can make them look good. Like it's a really, should be easy, and you want to have them ready so that when you run to an appointment, you've got them already. You're not stressing about it. So cool. Okay, so you're going to need a buyer consultation packet of some sort. That's going to be one big piece of it. What else are you going to need to take with you on your buyer consultation?
Your lender.
Your lender, you could bring your lender to a buyer consultation for sure.
It's a good idea.
Yep. I used to like that. Like I said, I never went in with, I never listened to the finance conversation because I didn't really want to know. But, and I do think sometimes your friends and family, they don't want you to always know like all their stuff. So, but the other thing I was going to say is your contracts. So contracts are a really big piece of this. Obviously, at the end of the buyer consultation, you want to walk away with signed contracts so that you're working together and you're moving forward. So what kind of contracts would you need? There's just a few. Buyer broker agreement. For those of you that haven't done it, I would pull one up and just take a look at it. It's called, I'm going to put the name in here, buyer broker agreement, designated agency. So that's one. What else are you gonna need? You're going to need a buyer due diligence checklist. I'll put that in here just in case you want to steal it and go make one after this class. Buyer due diligence checklist. And what else? Wire fraud alert disclosure. Fraud alert disclosure. And probably a ABA or affiliated business agreement, something like that. Each of our offices have one. I think they're all called ABAs, but they're basically just to let people know that we do have several vendors that we're going to introduce them to, and they're able to choose whoever they want to use. They don't have to use our recommendations, but that we're going to refer them to people that do their jobs really well so that we can take care of them. So anyways, those are the documents that you need. I would recommend bring them all filled out, all ready to go so that you can get them signed at the buyer agreement. It's not like the end of the world. If they don't sign that buyer broker agreement, it's not like the end of the world. You lose them as a client. It's all is lost. But man, it is so much easier to get them to sign that at the buyer consultation than it is any other time. Because sometimes, I mean, if you go out and you're showing properties, sure, you can pull out, you're looking at a house and then you just whip out the buyer broker agreement. You're like, hey, by the way, will you sign this? Like it seems so odd in any other situation other than that buyer consultation. In the buyer consultation, we're about to go through all the different steps, but you're going to provide massive value to them. So at the end, get the contract signed. It's a good practice. Any questions on that?
Nick, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I was speaking to someone a few days ago, and that person had a very specific requirement on what they were looking for and the area and all that stuff. And they have a house in another place, and they said they're not in a hurry to move, but then if they find something, they would be interested. So in that kind of situation, but that's not very specific. So how would you go about that signing part?
Yeah. Well, I think you need to do an in-depth buyer consultation. Do you feel like you already did an in-depth buyer consultation or maybe not quite yet?
So,
Or
we did talk about all the kind of like requirements from their perspective, what they're looking for and why they're moving and stuff like that. But then at the same time, we're very specific about where exactly they want to be and the kind of house they were looking for. And I just did a quick search in MLS, and there was really nothing in that area that could be even close to that. So I didn't see that going anywhere at the time. So I just didn't know if it made sense to sign anything.
I guess it depends. What's the point of the contract? If the point of the contract is like just formality, just like when you need it to go ahead and have it, I would say wait. But the truth is, I think the contract is part of a whole process of how we bring these buyers on board. We let them know what to expect because you know what they get from that buyer consultation, or that buyer broker agreement. Have you read through all the things that they get from you? It's almost kind of scary. Um, but those things are, yeah. Oh, I just took this class because I had to renew my license. Old cars was a like alliteration that they use. Old cars. O, obedience. L, loyalty. D, disclosure, probably. C, confidentiality. A, what would A be? Um, I'll think of it. R, reasonable care. Something like that. So anyway, so those are all the things that they get from us. So it's a really big deal. So I think maybe do a full buyer consultation. We'll go through what those steps are. Maybe we can kind of gauge whether you did a full consultation or not. And then maybe I would say more than likely you need to do a real consultation with them, like a full consultation with them, and get it signed at that point. That's my guess. So we can kind of see.
And where are all these documents? They're
These
also
are
in this site?
Yeah, these three documents are the buyer broker agreement. So together, those three documents make up the buyer broker agreement.
Yeah, but are they available in this site as well?
Yeah, they're on Utah Real Estate. So you go to Utah Real Estate Forms
Oh,
Library.
from the MLS.
Yep. Yep. So
One more thing I would add to that, Arun. So if you are, and I believe this happened to Janet too. So you're in the presentation and it looks like it's going to be a ways down the road before they actually can buy, or like you said, you couldn't find anything that they liked. I would just extend the deadline. I would just go for a year out. 18 months out, like all of that's okay. We don't have to have a specific deadline that's like in the next 30 days on there. So that way they're just at least attached to you, because what could happen is you're not seeing something that they like and they're also not under contract with you. So then they go out and then all of a sudden they drive past a house, they call the sign, the agent says, have you signed anything with anyone else? And they would say no. So we want them to be able to say, yes, I've signed something with
Got it.
another agent. So having a long time frame on there is totally fine. If you're like, you know what, there's nothing today, why don't we do 12 months out just for the next 12 months? We're going to work really hard. We're going to, you know, have all of this. We're going to work. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to do all these things. And we'll just put a year on it and see what happens. When they buy a house, it expires anyway.
Agree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about what that buyer consultation looks like, and then we can kind of gauge it, because there's a few things that I think you want to do. Okay, I kind of run through it in a 5-step process. So the 5 steps would be: first, build rapport. What does that mean? That means talk about anything other than real estate. So you got to meet with them. Hey, you know, comment on their car, their sports team, their hat, their kids, their dog, whatever it is, you got to talk about something other than real estate. If you can't connect with them on something other than houses, you're going to have a very difficult time working with them in real estate. So you've got to find some sort of connection there. Even if you're friends or family with these people, you got to make sure you build rapport. Step 2 is going to be dig deep for motivation. So what that means is, what has you interested in buying anyways? So it's a really important question. So someone says, oh yeah, I want to buy a house. You say, awesome, let's talk about it. When you sit down, they're probably going to say, you know, you might say, oh, hey, tell me more about this. Like, why do you want to buy a house anyways? And then they might say something like, you know, a conversation I recently had. Oh, I want to move out of my mom's house. Okay. Well, that's great. So this is a first-time home buyer. They want to move out of their mom's house. And a lot of people stop then. Okay. Buyer wants to move out of their mother's basement. Great. That's their motivation, right? Well, then I always ask them another question. Oh, really? Well, you could also rent a place and move out of your mom's basement. Like, why do you want to buy? And if you can hear the tone, it's like very curious. It's like just a really like, oh, really? Like, well, you could also rent though. Like, why do you want to buy? And that tone is not something they're expecting to hear from the realtor, right? They're expecting to hear like, yeah, you do need to buy a house, and houses are going up in value so fast, and you've got to get in now. Now's the time. Those are all like sales things, right? Those are sales statements that we would say to try to get them to do something. And people can be resistant to that. So I think you get a long ways if you say, oh, really? Like, tell me about that. Why are you so excited about buying something? And then they might tell you, oh, we just don't want to throw our money away on rent. Oh, really? Like, tell me more about that. Why is that so big for you? Oh, well, rent's just getting so expensive. I want to be able to lock in my monthly expenses. Oh yeah, I could totally see that. Ultimately, why is it that you want to be able to lock in your monthly expense for the long term? And they're like, oh, because I want to be able to quit my job, or I want to be able to build wealth. I want to be able to retire and not have to worry about it. Like, there's these big motivations that you can uncover if you keep asking. So ask deep questions and just keep finding out. And the more curious you sound, the more genuine it will seem. So if you just, it depends how you ask it. But if you're very curious, you'll find out a lot about it. So that's dig deep for motivation. Super important. It'll come in handy down the road. Every time there's a bump in the road, it's nice to come back to motivation, because there's going to be bumps in the road. Maybe they're having a hard time finding the right thing. Maybe they're having repair issues or a bad appraisal, or just can't come to terms on a negotiation. You can always say, hey, you told me how important it was for you to buy a new house because it's going to get you to retirement at age 60 or something like that, or make it so you don't have a house payment at age 60. Is that still important to you? Is that still what you're excited about? And they say, yeah. Okay, well, are we really going to let a $1,200 water heater get in the way of this? Like, why don't we go ahead and push forward and make this thing happen? So you'll want to hang on to that motivation, really understand what's driving them. Now, step 3 is to educate them. So that means just go through the process, let them know kind of what they can expect. Ryan says motivation strips out the emotion so you can revert back to it when emotions are high. Totally true. Yep. So knowing their motivation is huge. Now, step 3 is educate. So I'm gonna share this again. And my version is like a slightly older version, doesn't look quite as good, but I think it's gonna work the same for this. So this is not the pretty new one from the Home Hub, but it's very similar. Same steps, just looks a little different. But basically, I'm going to show you how we actually run through this. This is the part you can actually kind of memorize, just get good at. If you're good at kind of giving this education piece, it's going to make it look like you've done it 1,000 times. Like this is just, another Thursday for you. And really give you the confidence to meet with people. Because you might notice up until this point, we haven't talked about bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. That's really what your buyer would automatically tell you, right? Like you sit down, they're just like, hey, I need 3 beds, 2 baths. And I think that's how we get to be door openers sometimes. Like if we're always talking in terms of beds and baths, that's kind of door opener stuff because it's like, hey, let's weed out the properties. So I think this is the part where we're going to educate them and make them feel smarter when they leave. So first step, okay, let me show you really quick. It sounds like it's super important for you to buy a home because you want to get out of your mom's house, but also because you want to build wealth through real estate. And this is the first step. I'm so excited for you and what the future in real estate investing is going to mean for you. Now let's go through these steps. So the first step is going to be consultation with an agent. The cool thing is we're going to check that off the list today. That's exactly what we're doing right now. Now, the next step is talk to a lender, and I'm going to send you to a great lender that I work with. I think you'll work really well with them. They take great care of my clients. And then you're going to get an online search set up. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you set up an online search so you can see all the homes as soon as they hit the market. And then you can pick your top 3 to 5 listings, the ones that you like the most, and we're going to go see them in person. And I always like to set good expectations. So this is going to be the time where I say, hey, we're in a low inventory environment. So if you might just see one house that you're interested, there's no others that you like. You might just see one house. Just let me know. We'll always get you into the house that you want to see within 24 hours. So you're never going to miss a house because of us. So figure out how are you setting expectations there. Now, I do that because I work with the team. I think you guys can do that too because I want you to know that you don't need to cancel your vacations because you've got home showings. If someone needs to go see a home on a Friday and you're going out with your spouse that night, you can just find another agent. They'll go show the home for you. So I like to commit whenever they want to see the house, we'll get them in. It may not be me. Like in my case, I say, oh, it's not likely to be me. I'm in appointments all day. But my team is going to make sure you get into whatever you want to see. So you can set expectations however works best for you. But just remember, you can make this business work for you. So anyways, as you go look at homes, once we find one that you're interested in, I'm going to help you place an offer and negotiate the contract. Now, our clients aren't always getting the first home they put an offer on because it is a competitive market out there. But we're going to be right there by your side, and it's going to be so good in the end. Now, once we get your contract accepted, that's when you're going to put down earnest money. Now, earnest money is usually about 1% of the purchase price. So on a $500,000 house, that might be a $5,000 deposit. At that point, the seller is going to give us their disclosures. They're going to let us know anything they know about the property that might affect its value, and just make sure there's nothing crazy in there. Then we're going to go to the next step, which is to do our due diligence and have an inspector actually inspect the home, make sure that it's in great shape for you and your family. You can also, at that time, you can test for mold, meth, or radon. Now, this is all at your own expense. So the seller is going to make sure that we have access to the home, but you're going to be responsible to pay for these. So I would budget maybe $500 to $700, depending on which items you want to test for, to make sure we can make sure it's a great home for you. Now, after that, the bank is going to send out an appraiser to make sure that the value is where we're contracted at, that we're getting a good deal on the home. And then we'll get final loan approval from the bank and we'll move forward. And at that point, we're going to do a final walkthrough to make sure the house is in the same condition that it was when you initially put in the offer. And then we're going to go to settlement. We're going to sign that big stack of closing documents. And then within about 24 to 48 hours, it's going to fund and record, and you'll actually get keys and be able to take possession of the property. Do you have any questions on that? That's literally exactly how We run through it with our clients. You can probably see, I mean, it's probably 5 minutes. I don't think it's more than that, but it's a little, it's us giving them a lot of information, but our clients just love it. Even this one that I did on Tuesday, he said, "Oh my gosh, that was so easy. I appreciate you breaking it down for me." And this was someone who was pretty detail oriented. It took 90 minutes after all. And he was just like, "Hey, thanks so much for breaking it down for me." You can probably tell that if you memorize that and practice it and can spit that out, hopefully it'll help you with your confidence so that you can say, "Hey, I know how to do this. I can do a great job for my clients, and they're going to actually get value from me when they come in." So you have any comments, Terry?
I
on
do.
that?
I mean, my comment is keep it simple. That's why I love like even the presentation that I showed you from Home Hub. You're pulling out a one sheet page that you can literally read the words off of. Nick just showed you how to read the words off of a one sheet page. It keeps it so simple, but it just covers every single thing. It covers the whole process. If we don't do this, they don't know about earnest money. They don't know how much the earnest money is. If we don't tell them about the inspection, that could kill the deal. They don't know how much an inspection is going to cost. So I just think it just is so important. And then at the end of this, because you've shown them everything you're going to do, it's very easy to say, okay, now do you feel comfortable hiring me and moving on to the agency document? So I love that it's just simple and one sheet and you could read these words. If we gave you a buyer tonight and you took this with you, you could do a buyer presentation.
Totally. That kind of reminds me of the script that Emily Hayes was talking about the other day. She's like, "Oh, when I'm at open houses, I just ask people, hey, has anyone sat down and shown you what it looks like to buy a house in today's market?" She's like, "Every time they say no, and then I book an appointment to do it." Like, so it's a good script. And what does that mean? It means that other people aren't doing this. They're not taking the time to educate their people. And that's really what we're talking about on this page. So this is why, and you can add things. One example that I always like to give, we have an agent here in Salt Lake County that she's so good at setting expectations. So like one thing, and it's not necessarily in here, but she's so funny. Ever since I've known her, which is a long time, her voicemail says, "If this is after 7 p.m. or before 7 a.m., I'll return your call at the following business day." And so she's always done that. And so do you think her clients really care? If they call her at 8 p.m., do you think that bothers them at all? It's like, no, she set good expectations. She let them know what to expect. And, they know she'll call them back the following business day. So we can do the same thing in our businesses. That's why when it comes to showing homes, like I said, I don't hardly ever show homes. So I say, hey, it's not going to be me that's showing you because I'm in appointments all day. But our team is 100% committed to getting you into whatever house you want to see within 24 hours. You'll never miss a house because of us. So it's like you really have to show your value and on any of these things. So, or maybe you work another job. You could set the expectation that, hey, I may not get back to you till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or when I'm gone on the weekends, this is who's going to be the person who's going to cover for me or whatever, like whatever you want your expectations to be. One thing that I think is a good expectation to set is on Wednesdays, I'm going to call you and go through whatever new homes have hit the market to set up appointments for the weekend. That's such a good habit to get into. Every Wednesday, call your buyers, see what they've seen, if they want to go see something in person on Saturday, and set a time for it. So that's a really good habit, but that's stuff you'd go through in here. So if imagine like in the super, super hot market, which we may be back to sometime soon. I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me that much, but let's say in the hot market, we were offering way over list price all the time. So, imagine you took a buyer to a house. It was listed. Let's say you didn't have this conversation with them. You didn't go through what the process looked like and everything. You didn't go through market conditions with them. You get to the house and you just say, "Hey, the house was listed at 550. They say, "Awesome, we want to put in an offer. How much should we do it for?" And you say, "I think probably like, I don't know, 585 is how much you should offer on it." What do you think your clients would say? Like, "Are you crazy? I'm not going to offer more than the list price," right? So in this conversation is really a good place to set expectations. So makes it go much smoother. Okay, now the step number 4 is going to be wants and needs. So that's more the part that you're not going to struggle with. This is the part that's a little more natural, which is what do they want? Bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, area, location is huge. Get really clear on location. I'm probably not going to go way deep into it. There is a buyer wants and needs list in the buyer consultation. We also have a separate one in our resource materials. But basically, you just want to take notes on what do they want. And I do think it's somewhat important, especially as you're setting them up in the MLS. It's important to find out what their wants and needs are. So when it comes to like a garage, let's say that you ask them, what do they want in a garage? They say, oh, I want a 3-car garage. Okay, great. So you want a 3-car garage. Now, if I find you the perfect house, but it's only got a 2-car garage, but otherwise it's the perfect house for you, do you want me to show it to you? Usually they'll say yes. And in that case, you say, awesome. Okay, well, we're gonna do a minimum 2-car garage, in hopes that we find a 3-car garage. But if they say, oh no, I only want to buy a house, 3-car garage, period, I won't buy anything else, then you can set their minimum at 3. But the hard part is in this market, inventory is so tight that if you put really, really strict guidelines on there, you're not going to have any houses to show them. Basically, if it's like it's got to be a Rambler, it's got to have a finished basement, it's got to be in this exact neighborhood. Like if it's too narrow, you're not going to find any houses to show them, which is going to be kind of a non-starter. It's going to stop things in their tracks. So anyways, figure out, is it a need or a want? Is it a have to, or is it a, oh, I'd sure like to have that? So just take good notes on that. You can even pull up the MLS and set up their search with them there. That's what I do. And in that case, you can pull up the map and say, okay, how far north is too far north? And they might say Bountiful. And you say, okay, how far south is too far south? Okay, Sandy. And you can kind of draw on that map there. We should probably, I don't know if you have way quick access to it, Jake, but the listing alert video, maybe you could put the link to that in the chat. So if it's handy, you will. If not, we'll get it to you, but it's in the video library, but of how to set up a listing alert. But basically, you just kind of set up your things so that your clients are seeing the houses that you want them to see. And one other note on that, if they say like, let's say they want only a house that has a kitchen island. This is pretty common for me. Oh, I want an island in the kitchen. Well, there's not a search for an island in the kitchen. That's not really an option. So what I always do is I say, hey, that's great. I'm going to set up the search with all your criteria. One thing is it's going to send you all kinds of kitchens. So there's not a way I can only make it send you islands. So when you see one, maybe it doesn't have the right kitchen set up for you, just skip that one and just know, just know that's not a good fit for you. So I think that conversation is somewhat important, just because if they tell you they only want a kitchen island, and then you send them one that's like a galley style, or that's a whatever you call the other one, peninsula, then they're going to be like, wow, Nick didn't even listen to me. Like I told them I only want kitchens with islands. So make sure that they kind of know what the search criteria is, so that as they get them, they know that you listen to them. Any other comments on wants or needs?
I would just add, I think it's a really good time to display our tools for them, specifically like hooking them up to the MLS so that they can search with their own login and password, letting them know that we're going to hook them up to our MLS so that we can send them properties, and also giving them access to the consumer app so that they can play around. So I like to let them know right here, depending on how you'd like to look for homes, I'm going to look for you. You can look for you. You can drive around. Just kind of setting that expectation. I also like to tell people my job isn't necessarily to find the home. My job really begins when the home is found. Because going right along with door openers, sometimes I think they think, I don't need a realtor, I can find my own house. They're all online, which is true. So we just have to, another reason for the whole buyer consultation, like they need to understand what we do outside of opening doors and finding a house on the internet. So that's what I would add to that.
Such a good point. Yeah, it goes along with setting good expectations. Yeah, like you set expectations that we are not just here to help you find that house. I think that's really good, because you can see how they could easily slip into that trap of thinking that we didn't do anything because they found the house. Totally. Okay. Okay, Jake put the video in here. So the create listing alert video is right there. Really helpful. It's just like 2 minutes. It's just a click, like a walkthrough of how to set that up for your clients. I think it'll be valuable.
It's actually 32 seconds.
3 minutes. 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Jake just, he's like, no, you were kind of rambling on that one. Okay, so okay, not last thing. So build rapport, dig deep for motivation, educate wants and needs. Last one is going to be contract. Don't be scared of it. It's super easy. I'm not going to show the whole thing. But I did want to share my screen with you for this buyer broker agreement. So I'll just give you a couple quick hints. One thing really quick. So up here, this is just name, their name, your name, the brokerage name, this date. If you haven't filled it out in a while, always make sure that you put the date as the day you want it to expire. Whatever this date is the day that it will expire. So if you put today's date, it will expire tonight. So you're going to want to put these, a lot of times we're doing these 3, 6, 12 months out. Some people do them for years and years. Not a huge fan of that, but whatever, it doesn't matter too much. And then in county right here, I'll usually put any county. That way this will cover any county in Utah. There is a spot to put an address right here. And, just don't put an address there. If you put an address there, then it'll just be for that one address. So you'll have to get a new one signed for any other property, which will be annoying. Brokerage.
Putting to be determined.
Yeah, to be determined.
I like that you just put those lines in there. We just don't want blank. We don't want any blank spaces that anybody can fill in. So put something there. Yeah, so I like the lines or to be determined.
Love it. I like that a lot. Okay, brokerage fee. Now this you can put whatever you want. In my case, I'm going to put 3%. As now, does that guarantee that I'm going to get paid 3%? No, it does not. There's a lot of variables, all sorts of things that can happen. So just because I put that there does not mean I'll be paid that. But that's what I put on mine. And then when it comes to dollar amount, this is where you can actually, I don't know if you guys know this. We probably don't talk about it enough. At least I don't. But transaction fees. So a lot of times, a lot of us will use a transaction coordinator. You can charge your client for the transaction coordinator fee. So probably the most common is maybe about $350 for a transaction coordinator. So if you put $350 in this first spot, it will basically charge your client $350 plus 3%. Now, to be 100% open with how I present this, I usually just say, hey, the cool thing about working with us, typically you're not going to have to pay for the commission because, a seller will actually cover that. The only thing you'll have to pay me is this $350, $350 transaction fee. And that to them seems like a steal, right? And I do think there's some verbiage that you can have of like, hey, if most houses, a lot of these houses, they're going to compensate me on your, for you. If there's ever a house that's not going to do that, let's have a conversation about it and we'll figure out a good solution so that it makes sense for you. So I would address something like that. But I'm just like, in most cases, you're only gonna have to pay me $350 and that's a win. So, okay. And then protection period. Yeah, Jake.
I was gonna say, I don't know if it was you that taught me this or someone else's class that taught me this, but that as if they're on the fence of working with you, you can say, normally we charge $350 for transactions, but for you, I'm not gonna charge that.
Yeah.
As a incentive of you're saving them money.
Yeah. So he's saying you could.
Sellers, you think you would use that script or
either one, really? Yeah. Let's say you always do a $350 transaction fee. That does make it so that you can take that off as a way to help your clients, to save them a little money. So if you ever have a client that's kind of on the edge, you can say, hey, you know what? We're really tight. I know you're going to send me a lot of referrals, so I'm going to waive this, and then you can just dash through it or something. So, yep, I think that's good. And then the last part, because I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the one thing I wanted to show you, and it's not just so I can say my joke, even though it's pretty funny, but This is just, I think it's useful in an appointment. So, but when you go through here, so if you scroll down and this shows up at the bottom of the first page when you print it, it says duties of a buyer's agent. So as agents for the buyer, buyer's agent and broker have fiduciary duties to the buyer that include loyalty, obedience, full disclosure, confidentiality, reasonable care, and any other duties required by law. And I always tell them, man, my wife wishes she could get half of those things. So, and then they kind of giggle, and that's my joke. But they kind of giggle, and that's just kind of good because it does say all those nice things that I do for them. It also makes them giggle, and then it's easier to just have them initial. So I like go through and I'm like, okay, this says all the things you'll get. My wife wishes she could get half of those, and then I just have them initial right there at the bottom of the page. Then we flip, they initial the next page, flip again, initial and sign, and then it's done. But it's just like kind of light. It's just kind of light and fluffy, which I think is the best way to present something like that. I think it works better for guys. It comes off, at least to me, it seems a little like it's that one thing that I've got. But
I think
however
it's
you
funny you have that. I have a dumb joke in the middle of mine too. So come up with your own joke. Clearly that's a thing. But the one thing I wanted to say, and your screen's not on anymore, but just like the presentation, these documents, you do have to know what they mean, what everything, you want to know these documents inside and out. But let's just say I hand you a buyer tonight and you don't know exactly what this contract means. You literally can read those bold words and figure it out. So that's when I'm going through it, I'm just like, oh, there's duties of a buyer's agent. There's actually a limited agent. A limited agent means this, professional advice. You know, you can really skim over these and just read out those bullet point words as you're going through this, and you will get through the presentation. So those are kind of key words to me, but I just think it's good to know. You do need to know the whole thing inside and out, and you could get through this very easily.
Now we need to hear your joke.
Okay, so my joke is it's under, I think it's buyer's authorizations. So what I say, and you guys are probably all too young for this, but I'm like, so this basically allows me to communicate with you for the sole purpose of selling real estate. I'm not going to call you because my mom is selling Mary Kay. Something like that. So it's funny that you have a joke in a different place, but it is because it can get a little bit intense when you're going through these contracts. They get nervous. So to break it up with just a stupid little joke, like, you know, if you're on the do not call list, you can't sue me. You know, I'm going to call you for real estate, just little things like that. So you can lighten it up a little bit, I think is a really good idea.
totally.
Something else that I say that is not as light is when I'm getting them to sign this is I do use the script that says, according to Utah code, agency must be in writing. So if they get a little bit nervous about, I don't want to sign a contract or anything, I can go back and say, well, according to Utah code, which almost makes it sound like it's illegal for us not to sign this tonight, right? So I do push that a little bit if they push back on me. That just because that's true. Utah code says agency has to be in writing.
Yep. Totally.
I like your joke. I'm gonna have to use that. I think instead of Mary Kay, though, I might say Pampered Chef.
Yeah. Whatever MLM you can come up with, just throw it in there.
Yep. Yep. So I love it. Yep. Something light and fluffy or something just, yeah, even like what you said about code, like it's all good. And to be clear, you really do want to have a buyer broker agreement with your clients. So you really shouldn't be showing them houses without a buyer broker. Now, the lines are kind of weird. Like, let's say you do show, let's say like you also need a buyer broker to write a contract for a client, right? To represent them. If you don't have an agency agreement and you write a contract for them, guess where you go?
Jail.
Yeah, directly to jail, real estate jail. So if you write a contract for someone you don't have agency for, you're going to go to real estate jail. And if you show them a house without an agency agreement, I really don't think you're going to go to real estate jail. So we highly recommend it. It's like highly recommended. You should do it. It's professional, all those things. But that is a little different than when you write an offer for someone that you don't have agency with. That's a little different thing. So there are different degrees of that rule, but definitely you want to have
Not
it.
to scare you too much, but all the lawsuits that you're hearing about right now regarding real estate commission, is because agents did not use agency and they did not explain who's paying for what and how we get paid. So I do think it's important. The cleaner we can be in the whole process, the less, I can speak very confidently when somebody asks me like, hey, what's all these lawsuits going on with real estate commissions? I'm like, well, every person I've ever worked with has signed an agreement. They know completely who's paying who and what. So
Yeah.
I think it's more important than ever to use agency documents.
Totally. Yep. Love it. So the last step, number 5, is to get your contract signed. So just go through, get it done. If you haven't signed at the buyer consultation, it makes the most sense. You've already added so much value to them. They understand things better. They feel a little smarter when they leave your office, which is a good sign. And now you're sending them off to go meet with the lender and see if they're qualified. Again, if they do get qualified now, great. You go on, you continue with your plan. Everything's good. Let's say it doesn't go as well. That's fine. Get a plan in place, follow up with them. So let's say it's a 6-month plan to get on board. Great. I'm going to follow up with you every month or twice a month or 4 times a month. Doesn't matter. But have a system of how you're going to stay in touch with them, make sure they stay on their plan so that they're ready to go. And in the meantime, ask them, hey, while we're getting you ready to go, who else do you know that's looking to buy or sell a home this year that I could help? And hopefully you can close on their friends and family before you even close their deal. That'd be awesome. So, and super doable. Very manageable. So, yeah, so that's kind of that's the spiel. What questions do you have?
How much do you usually pay the transaction coordinator, so that I can be prepared to pay that amount? See if I decide not to charge the client.
Yeah, about 350. So they range maybe from 3 to 450, something like that. I'd say probably average is about 350.
You pay them at closing as well, in case you're not aware of that. So it's not an out-of-pocket expense for you. It is something that is paid out of closing, and it's nice because they're licensed and they are just as motivated to get the deal through as you are, because that's the only way they get paid.
Yep. Yep. Oh, Ryan says this was a while ago, and maybe that's because he left. I don't know.
He did.
Oh, might be. So good stuff, Nick and Terry. The earlier you implement systems like this in your business, the easier you can scale and take on more clients without regressing down the road to catch up. I have to jet. Yep. So great guy though. And it really is like at first it's like, well, I'll just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. It's just one buyer. It's going to be great. I don't really need to do a buyer consultation. I'll figure that out later. That's not a good plan. And I'm not announcing anything like crazy because I don't know all the details yet, but we're going to go through and have you guys certify your buyer presentations with us so that we know that you guys are prepped to do that. So get excited. Let's get your buyer presentation together. Figure out what those contracts say and how you're going to lay that out to your clients so that we can go through it and make sure that you're 100% ready for your new for your buyer appointments. So it's going to be great. See, Johnny's excited about that. He's excited to check off his buyer contract, his buyer presentation.
When you're
Love
ready,
it.
book an appointment, text us, call us, email us, let us know. We want to check it off your list. So
Yep.
we're ready when you are.
We'll do the same with the seller consultations and writing offers and a few different things. So we just want to make sure that you guys are all ready to go take great care of your clients. Okay, any other comments or questions before we break? Okay, maybe I'll see some of you at Hale Center Theater tomorrow for that Salt Lake board forecast. If not, if you don't have a ticket to it, no worries. Go to slrealtors.com. I know the calendar will be on there with a link. You can just stream it, but it's going to be the forecast for this year. They bring in super smart economists to come. Yeah, economists. I had an old economist.
I struggled with that word this morning too.
Yeah, I used to have this funny professor, and it was for an economics class, but he would say like economics, and so now I forever struggle with it. But yeah, what's the link for that? Let me see if I can find it really fast.
I don't know.
slrealtors.com would be one option.
I usually live stream it.
Yeah, I think they do it on the Facebook page. Is that right? maybe the Salt
I
Lake Board
think if you
Facebook
just go
page.
to slrealtors.com like tomorrow, they will have a click here and then it does direct you to their Facebook page.
Yep. Oh, live stream for the forecast. Live streamed on Facebook, it says. So make sure I wonder if it says the name of it. But it's
I
like
think you
Salt
need
Lake
to,
Realtors.
I think you need to join the group though first.
Yes, maybe try to do that now. Salt Lake Board of Realtors member group is what it's called. Maybe go in there and request it now. I bet there will be a group of them that are approving those in the morning to make sure that people have access to it. So, or yeah, if not, maybe try slrealtors.com. That is the board website, and slrealtors.com. That's our board website. I'm sure the calendar will be on there, and then you should be able to just click in and live stream it, unless it's on Facebook only. So, okay, appreciate you guys. Keep us posted. We want to help you. We're here to support you all weekend long. So let us know what we can do, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
Good night. Thank you.
You're welcome.
See you guys.